Will a plot number work for the address? My dad passed away when I was 10 years old, and this story takes place about a year or two afterwards. I honestly don't remember exactly how long it had been since a lot had been going on to blur those years together. But I do remember my mom was still very distraught about his death. I think this was one of the first times I actually saw her leave the house since his passing. Also, I'm naturally very tiny, so while I was probably like 12, I definitely looked at least half that. On this fateful day, I had to go to the doctor's office. I think I had pink eye. But again, I don't really remember. My mom sat me down in the little receptionist office and grabs the paperwork to fill out. My mom's always used humor to deflect her pain, so it wasn't strange to hear her mumble, second guardian, parent address. I don't know how heaven's addressing system works. Guess that's gonna be left blank. What was strange was when she returned to the receptionist counter. I was bored out of my mind and it was a tiny waiting room, so all I could do was watch the scene unfold. My mom turns to come sit with me again, but is stopped. "Excuse me, ma'am?" Quote. My mom turns back around to face the receptionist. "Yes?" Quote. "You didn't finish your paperwork." My mom, ready to do her job and ensure her daughter had medical care ASAP, grabs the paperwork off the counter. She flips through it. "No. Looks like I got it all." "Ma'am, we need a second parent listed." "Oh, he's no longer in the picture." "I'm sorry, but I still need an address." My mom lowers her voice, almost too quiet to hear. "I mean, he passed recently. I don't have an address. Ma'am, I can't file the paperwork without one." Her voice is no longer lowered. "He's dead. I can't give you one." "Then I can't file the paperwork." "So you're telling me I need my deceased husband's current address to get my daughter looked at?" Quote. "Yes, ma'am. I can't file the paperwork until it's been completed." My mom isn't normally one to make a scene, especially not somewhere like a doctor's office. Keyword normally. I watch my mom open her mouth, close it, take in a deep breath, and nodded. My mom then spoke loud. I almost think she embellished the heartbreak in her voice, making sure everyone and anyone could hear her. "Well, I hope a plot number works for my husband's address, because that's all I can give you." Quote. The woman immediately starts to panic. There's no way her bosses didn't just hear that, and I could already see people standing up. I assumed to defend my mom's honor. She started trying to take the paper from my mom's hands. "No. No. Don't worry. I don't need one. This is good enough." Quote. She glared at the women. "No. You said you can't file without an address, so I'm giving you one." My mom's also super stubborn when she gets frustrated. She held onto those papers like they were my dad's final words. Tears were streaming down her face, though I'm still not sure if it was from anger, grief, or an equal mix of both as she scribbled out his plot number. She didn't move from the desk, but it didn't matter. Everyone was looking at her in stunned silence. My mom had to grab her phone to get the proper number, which involved returning to our seats where her purse was. Everyone turned to glare at the receptionist when they saw my poor mom had a child. When she did return with her phone, a different woman was standing up front. She politely told my mom the plot number wasn't necessary, apologized for the other person, and told her she could happily return to her seat if she likes. Did I already mention my mother is stubborn when pissed? The tears were still coming, but my mom had a blank expression. "You cannot file my paperwork without a second parent's address. I will provide you with one," and after a second of navigating her phone, confirmed what she wrote down was correct, and returned to our seats. The other receptionist did not return while we were there. I also remember my mom being pleasantly surprised when she went over the bill for that. Got a heft discount, like 60% off. I remember a while ago an official Twitter account from my country's national health insurance replied to someone that the deceased does have to come herself to cancel the insurance. Proceeds to be a meme later. My mum was the executor of my nan's will when she passed away. At the bank my mum said she wanted the remaining bills to be paid from nan's account. Then the account was to be closed. The cashier clerk said that the account holder needed to sign the paperwork. To which my mum replied that the account holder was dead. Here's the death certificate and will, etc. Nope. Not good enough for the bank employee. Cue angry, sarcastic mum. Fine. I'll go and get my mum and bring her down here so you can ask her to sign. She won't do anything for me anymore. Quote. The cashier smiled and said that's what she wanted anyway. Because the account holder must sign the paperwork to close the account. You realize she's in an urn, right? She's dead. She can't sign anything. Quote. At this point the branch manager came over at a run, shooing the cashier away and apologizing profusely to my mum for what he had just heard. 30 minutes later, after taking mum to an office out the back to calm down and stop crying, the paperwork was completed to the bank's satisfaction and the manager was still apologizing as we walked out the door. Gods, the memories that stick with you as the years roll on by. This story just warmed my cold, sarcastic heart so much I had to give my one free award. Your mother is my hero. Your mother shouldn't have had to go through with that, but it's legendary how she handled it. Folded hands, hooray. I don't know why forms don't have some kind of option that you can tick a box for, no second guardian, because there's a lot of people in that situation. And it causes unnecessary pain and stress and confusion. Why is it that someone's ears and common sense all go out the window when it comes to something like this? When a form of paperwork requires someone that is dead. And instead of going, I'm sorry, we can skip this, they double down until it gets worse to a breaking point. Damn, this is wonderful. Writing, heaven, would have been pretty dope too. On second thought, hell is better. Being deceased can have a strange status for the living. When my father-in-law passed, Mum randomly had a call from a former employer. Not long afterwards, checking up on pension status. This was an employer from like 30 or 40 years ago that Dad had worked at for maybe a year at most. Mum explained that Dad had passed and there was nothing to update on the system. They explained that Mum was therefore his beneficiary and would receive the close down payment. Because Dad had been there such a short time, the pension amount was tiny. But after such a long time it had accumulated to a few £100. They also sent an additional check for £1,000 to help with funeral expenses and a personal message of condolence. When I was applying for security clearance, I had to fill out all the details of my immediate family. My dad passed away when I was in my 20s. But he was a pig of a man and my parents separated when I was 11. So I hardly saw him and we had virtually nothing to do with him. So I knew, nor cared little about him. But I needed info for my application. Trawling through all the stuff my mum could remember was painful for her. Victim of domestic violence. But I got as much information as I could about his background. Working my way through the form, I get to the end and there's a note that says, if any of these people are deceased there is no requirement to complete their details. Why the hell couldn't they put that at the top of the bloody form? Mom's a civil beast, love it. I adopted my daughter as a single parent and couldn't sign her up for summer camp at the YMCA. Without a second parent's name, address and phone hash as all were required fields. So stupid. I hope someone has an anecdote about dumping some ashes on an idiot's desk. Or at least offering to go buy a shovel so I can drag my parents' worm-infested corpse up in here. Oh man. Of all the things that shouldn't have happened, this is the most shouldn't have. Your poor mom. But I love how she handled it. Needed to pay for my father's cremation. Don't be sad. He was a POS. Tried to access his superannuation. Retirement. But that requires a death certificate. Government won't issue a death certificate until after he's been buried, cremated. So my mum died quite suddenly. And we were all in shock for a while. A couple of weeks after a man called the house. Me. Hello. Man. Ah, hello. Is that Mrs. B? I spoke with your husband about new windows. Single quote. Me. No. She died. Him. Oh, I am sorry. I'll call back another time. Single quote. Line went dead. A week later. I answer the phone again. Me. Hello. Him. Good morning, Mrs. B. I recognize the voice. Me. Nope. She's still dead. Please don't call again. Him. I am so sorry. End of call. Do these people have brain rot or something? You can't fix stupid. Your mom is awesome. 2 years after my mum died, I received an account for her, told them she was dead, date of death, etc. Wanted a forwarding address, I gave them her plot number. Never heard from them again. ANZ. One of the biggest banks in Australia had a similar insistence when my ex-wife came in, complete with death certificate, to close her late mother's accounts. I wonder at the sort of organization that would hire eggplants to do customer service, and then not train them in basic language and logic skills.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.